Hello and welcome live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Gautam Roy, and coming up in the next 1 hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chairs a high-level meeting with India's Defence Minister, National Security Advisor and 3 service chiefs. Home Minister Amit Shah also meets the PM. Donald Trump is set to celebrate 100 days in the Oval Office with the Michigan rally as the least popular American president in over 70 years after completing a century of days in office. Mark Carney's Liberal Party wins the Canadian elections, vows to represent everyone in his victory speech, says Trump will never own Canada. Prime Minister Modi congratulates Carney. And Spain and Portugal rule out cyber attack and a surge in renewable energy supply as probable causes of devastating blackout. Travel chaos and other disruptions continue. But first up, the deadly terror attack in Pahalgam has prompted urgent action from India with a high-level security meeting led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi. India is also highlighting Pakistan's role in sponsoring cross-border terrorism on the global stage at the United Nations. Meanwhile, the National Investigation Agency has intensified its probe by questioning around 150 people. DD India's Mihir Maikuri has the details.
The deadly terror attack in Pahalgam has pushed India into action. In New Delhi, Prime Minister Modi chaired a crucial security huddle joined by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, Chief of Defence Staff, among others. On the global stage too, India is on the offensive. At the launch of the Victims of Terrorism Association network at the United Nations, India's Deputy Envoy Yojana Patel launched a scathing attack on Pakistan.
The whole world has heard Pakistan's Defence Minister Khwaja Asif admitting and confessing Pakistan's history of supporting, training and funding terrorist organizations in a recent television interview. This open confession surprises no one and exposes Pakistan as a rogue state fueling global terrorism and destabilizing the region. The world can no longer turn a blind eye.
Amidst allegations of spreading false narratives and misinformation, India has blocked the X account of Pakistan's Defence Minister Khwaja Asif. On the ground, the National Investigation Agency is leaving no stone unturned. The team has recreated the crime scene and is meticulously gathering evidence from every nook and corner of the site. They're also examining the past contacts of mule operators to determine any involvement in previous criminal activities. Meanwhile, a new video from the Pahalgam terror attack has surfaced, adding to the horror of the incident. Captured by Rishi Bhatt, a tourist from Gujarat, it shows the chilling moment when tourists collapse after being shot. The footage went viral almost immediately, and the NIA is now questioning both the zipline operator and Rishi Bhatt based on this new evidence. In the wake of the terror attack, the Jammu and Kashmir government has shut down 48 tourist destinations across the valley. This decisive move comes as Indian security agencies ramp up anti-terror operations in the region. As the investigation intensifies, India remains unwavering in its strategy to dismantle terrorism at its core. Mihir Maikuri for DD India.
Let's go across to DD India's Amit Mukherjee for more on this in our newsroom. Well, hi Amit, how is India's response shaping up to what has happened in Pahalgam a week ago in terms of both the probe as well as further action?
Well, Gautam, if you see what has been happening for the past 7 days since the the terror attack had happened, India has been upping its ante at multiple quarters. Whether it's securing its own territory and also kind of ensuring that the LOC is also secured. Now, for the last 7 days, there has been reports of firing from the Pakistani sides. These are divergent techniques tactics which are often deployed by these rogue element across the border to kind of, they either push in people from the other side of the border into India, and even then they indulge into such disruptive
By people you mean terrorists?
Of course, the terrorists from the other side, the trained armed people who are actually responsible for the kind of massacres which we saw 7 days back. So these, at the LOC, constant firing from the Pakistani side has been happening. This again, like I said, these are disruptive activities, divergent techniques to get people out, or either to push into militants into India or pull them out once their job is done. So right now, India is securing the borders, ensuring that everything is watertight at the borders, and at the same time, it's on carrying out with its combing operation. They have intensified patrolling in certain sectors which are hotbeds of terrorists in Jammu and Kashmir. And they have also detained about 175 people from the potentially very active places in Jammu and Kashmir, which had a history of harboring terrorists, providing support to whenever militants had come into India from the Pakistani side to carry out various disruptive and terrorist activities. So and the entire thing which is happening in the past 7 days, the actions being taken by different different quarters of the administration. It culminated with the Prime Minister chairing this meeting in the evening, where of course you mentioned the chiefs of defence staffs, the defense minister, the national security advisor. They were all there. They kind of took stock of the situation. I mean, the actions taken so far and what would be the stance that would be taken going further. In fact, there was a back-to-back meeting before the Prime Minister's meeting. There was also a meeting with which Home Minister Amit Shah had chaired with all the heads of the paramilitary forces, the BSF, the border security forces which guard our borders, the national security guards, the Assam Rifles. So it's not only restricted to the western borders of India. Stock-taking measures have been deployed across the entire border, whether it's the eastern border, the northern border, as well as the western frontiers of India.
And there's a diplomatic aspect to this all-hands response as well, so to speak, right, Abid?
Well, absolutely, Gautam. If you see the kind of actions that India has taken so far, very restrained. They have only been responding to rogue activities from across the border. I mean, all the firing that has been taking place from the Indian side are only retaliatory measures that have been deployed. Currently, everything has been secured within the country. I mean, there are reports, intelligence reports of terrorists still holed up in Jammu and Kashmir, for which actions are being taken, combing operations. The patrolling in that area has been escalated. People who have been detained are being questioned on an hourly basis. And also, if you look at what had happened in the last 4 or 5 days, those terrorists against whom the government agencies had concrete report, I mean, their establishments and premises have also been demolished. Also,
yes.
India
I was also asking you about the diplomatic aspect in terms of what India has done to further corner Pakistan internationally.
Well, of course, India has made a very clear statement in the UN today, where it has squarely blamed Pakistan for carrying out disruptive and terrorist activities in the past, as well as, I mean, giving an instance of the current, instance which had taken place where 26 people were massacred. And the other thing is also, I mean, India is keeping, the diplomatic channels as far as all the countries are concerned. And it's not a new thing. And India has been, maintaining friendly relationship, whether it has been the vaccine diplomacy or otherwise also. I mean, India has always been a very, very sympathetic sort of a global country, and it has been kind of interacting with all countries across the world in a very, very cordial way, and have been maintaining good relationship. And all those things are now being kind of, put into action, the past relationships, right, and all. And the kind of narrative which India is building right now is absolutely favorable. It is showing itself as a very, very responsible country, despite the ghastly action that had taken place, a week back in Jammu and Kashmir. India has been very, very calculative in its approach, and it has not escalated the situation. Of course, it's clearing up its own territory, and where there are, instances and reports of terrorists hauled up It's only taking action out there. And also, if you, very sensitive actions are being taken, Gautam.
Yes.
In fact, if you look at Jammu and Kashmir, today action was being taken, but at the same time, the government is very, very sympathetic about the people of Jammu and Kashmir who survive on tourism. And also people who are visiting, various places. This is
Yes.
the season is perfect for, visitors to go to Jammu and Kashmir. And while operations are on, they are taking
Yes, there has to be caution, but a sense of normalcy
That's exactly
as
what
well
had
has to be
happened,
maintained.
you know,
Yes, thanks Amit for joining us and talking about it. Now, while Pakistan continues to violate the ceasefire, a ceasefire that used to be an agreed matter earlier on the 6th day, the spirit of Kashmir remains undefeated. Tourists are coming back to Kashmir. DD India's Vishal Baristo brings us this report from the Dal Lake in Srinagar.
I'm here at Dal Lake, and tourism is trickling back to the valley, and I'm also told in Pahalgam. I have a group of tourists here. They are coming from Kolkata. Can you please tell us about your experience? Where all have you been, and how has been your experience with the people here?
We have gone to Pahalgam, Sonmarg and Gulmarg, and it was a very nice experience. People here are very polite and very humble.
So would you like to come here again, and would you like to extend your stay here? What would you like to say?
Definitely, it was a very nice experience, and the people here are very nice. So I will come here again and again with my family.
Tourism is coming back. There is no relaxation as far as the hospitality standards are concerned. People are so lovable here with open arms. They are welcoming tourists from all over the country. And there's only one word, and that is love and peace. With cameraman Mohit Uike in Srinagar, this is Vishal Baristo for DD India.
Now, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar held talks with Greek FM George Yerapetritis. In a post on X, the minister said that they discussed the Pahalgam terrorist attack and welcomed Greece's firm opposition to cross-border terrorism. Dr. Jaishankar added that the strategic partnership reflects the depth of India-Greece ties. And Pakistan-based cyber actors have once again failed in their attempts to breach India's cyber sovereignty. Frustrated by their inability to penetrate mission-critical networks, the group operating under the moniker IOK Hacker or Internet of Khilafah turned their focus towards publicly accessible welfare and educational platforms. According to intelligence assessments, 4 coordinated incidents were recorded. The websites of Army public schools in Srinagar and Rani Khed were targeted with inflammatory propaganda, while APS Srinagar also faced a DDoS attack. Simultaneously, attempts were made to breach the Army Welfare Housing Organization database and the Indian Air Force Placement Organization portal. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that India's future lies in the trinity of talent, temperament and technology, as he addressed the Yugam Innovation Conclave, which aims to boost research to commercialization of frontier tech. More details in this report.
Addressing the Yugam Conclave in New Delhi on Tuesday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that the government endeavours to empower the youth with skills that make them self-reliant and position India as a global innovation hub.
टैलेंट, टेम्परामेंट और टेक्नोलॉजी की ट्रिनिटी ही भारत के भविष्य को ट्रांसफॉर्म करेगी। इसके लिए हम भारत के बच्चों को बचपन में ही जरूरी एक्सपोजर दे रहे हैं। इसके लिए जरूरी है कि हमारा पूरा रिसर्च इकोसिस्टम एकेडमिक इंस्टीट्यूशन से लेकर इन्वेस्टर्स और इंडस्ट्री तक हर कोई रिसर्च के साथ खड़ा हो, उन्हें गाइड करे।
Yugam, which means conference in Sanskrit, is a first of its kind strategic conclave bringing together leaders from government, academia, industry and innovators. Stressing the importance of strengthening India's research ecosystem to achieve national goals, Prime Minister Modi highlighted the creation of research and development cells in nearly 6,000 higher education institutions.
भारत ने जिन लक्ष्यों को तय किया है, उसे निरंतर गति देने के लिए देश के रिसर्च इकोसिस्टम को मजबूती देना आवश्यक है। पिछले एक दशक में इस दिशा में तेजी से काम हुआ है। जरूरी संसाधनों को बढ़ाया गया है। 2013-14 में R&D पर ग्रॉस एक्सपेंडिचर केवल 60,000 करोड़ रुपए था। हमने इसे डबल से भी ज्यादा बढ़ाकर 1.25 लाख करोड़ रुपए से भी ऊपर कर दिया है।
The Prime Minister also said that the government has decided to increase the number of seats in the IITs in this year's budget. The Yugam conclave aims to push for large-scale private investment in India's innovation ecosystem and strengthen the partnerships between academia, industry and the government. Bureau Report, DD India.
And still to come on DD India NewsHour. Ukraine rejects Russia's 3-day ceasefire offer and seeks at least a 30 days pause to the fighting. Japan's Prime Minister meets Filipino President aiming to deepen security and economic cooperation in the face of China's challenges. And Vietnam will release over 8,000 prisoners ahead of the 50th anniversary of the fall of Saigon.
नमस्कार। आज भी लोग मुझसे पूछते हैं कि सिनेमा का असली मकसद क्या है। मैं कहता हूं कि सिनेमा सिर्फ एक कहानी नहीं, एक एहसास है जो दिल तक जाए, जो यादों में रहे, जो दुनिया को जोड़ दे। वर्ल्ड ऑडियो विजुअल एंड एंटरटेनमेंट समिट वेव्स इज द नेक्स्ट चैप्टर ऑफ दैट जर्नी, जहां सिर्फ एंटरटेनमेंट ही नहीं, एक नया युग लिखा जाएगा। तो क्या आप इस कहानी का हिस्सा बनने के लिए तैयार हैं?
Connecting creators, connecting countries. Waves 2025.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, as Donald Trump completes the first 100 days of his second non-consecutive term in office, the 47th president is marking the milestone in his trademark style, seeking to rejuvenate his base with a rally in Michigan. Trump has shaken up the United States like few presidents before him. Since taking office, he signed a flurry of executive orders, over 140 of them, vowing to slash the federal government, escalate his immigration crackdown, and enact an aggressive tariff policy. But polls show that Trump's honeymoon period has quickly evaporated. According to a CNN poll, Trump's 41% approval rating is the lowest for any newly elected president at 100 days, dating back at least to Dwight Eisenhower. Other polls, including those by the Washington Post and ABC News, found that only 39% of Americans approve of how Trump is conducting his presidency. So, it's been 100 days since Donald Trump began his second term in office, and it's been nothing short of being eventful. At 78 years old, Donald Trump has wasted no time pushing forward a sweeping and often controversial agenda impacting everything from the economy to immigration and international trade. Since taking office, President Trump has signed 142 executive orders, including 37 in his first week. He rescinded 78 of former President Biden's executive actions and has since revoked more than 100 orders overall. On the legislative front, Donald Trump's approach has been lean. Only 5 bills have been signed into law. Trump administration is facing significant judicial scrutiny as over 200 legal challenges have been launched against various policies. Trump has issued pardons for 39 individuals and entities. Among these moves was an unprecedented broad pardon intended for anyone convicted in connection with the 6th of January U.S. Capitol riot. Under the newly established Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, tens of thousands of federal employees have been affected. On the immigration front, U.S. Customs and Border Protection reported a record low of 7,180 southwest border crossings in March. On trade, Trump's tariffs have raised concerns internationally, with a baseline 10% tariff on imports and higher rates up to 25% on certain goods. The average effective tariff now stands at 28%, the highest since 1901. The annual inflation rate as of March is only moderated to a 6-month low at 2.4%. And to add to all this, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt on Tuesday criticized Amazon's decision to include tariff costs in the price tags of its products. Leavitt said that US President Trump viewed the move as a hostile and politically motivated action.
I will take this since I just got off the phone with the president about Amazon's announcement. This is a hostile and political act by Amazon. Why didn't Amazon do this when the Biden administration hiked inflation to the highest level in 40 years? And I would also add that it's not a surprise because, as Reuters recently wrote, Amazon has partnered with a Chinese propaganda arm. So this is another reason why Americans should buy American. It's another reason why we are onshoring critical supply chains here at home to shore up our own critical supply chain and boost our own manufacturing here.
So the Bezos-Trump honeymoon is clearly over as well. Now, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney's Liberals secured the highest seats in Parliament, beating the Conservatives by a comfortable margin, but are likely to fall short of a majority. Against the backdrop of a trade war with the Trump-led United States, results of Canada's federal elections were keenly watched by members of the global community. European leaders have hailed Carney's victory as promoting multilateralism. In his victory speech, Carney said, "Old relationship with the US is over." India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said he looks forward to working with Carney to unlock greater opportunities for our people. Fuzail Ahmed reports.
Liberal Party's victory in election in Canada comes against the backdrop of a trade war with its neighbor United States. In his victory speech, Prime Minister Mark Carney vowed to fight Trump's protectionist policies fiercely.
Our old relationship with the United States, a relationship based on steadily increasing integration, is over. The system of open global trade, anchored by the United States, a system that Canada has relied on since the Second World War, a system that, while not perfect, has helped deliver prosperity for a country for decades, is over.
The impact of Trump's tariff was felt by many in Canada, including by opposition. While conceding defeat, Conservatives leader Pierre Poilievre pledged to work with Liberal government in countering Trump's trade war.
We will always put Canada first as we stare down tariffs and other irresponsible threats from President Trump. Conservatives will work with the Prime Minister and all parties with the common goal of defending Canada's interests.
Apart from Trump's overtures to make Canada the US's 51st state, the most dominant determinant of the election outcome was Ottawa and Washington's trade relations and the impact of Trump's tariff onslaught. Each day, $2.5 billion in goods and services cross the Canada-US border. This amounts to nearly $1 trillion per year. Canada serves as a primary export market for 34 US states. A 25% tariff could shrink Canada's GDP by 2.6%, costing Canadian households an average of $1,900 annually. For the US, this would mean a 1.6% GDP drop, with families losing $1,300 per year. Canadian companies employ approximately 900,000 workers in the US, and nearly 8 million US jobs are tied to trade with Canada. Amid ongoing trade war, the Liberals' triumph means a lot for many of Canada's European allies. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen wrote on X, "The bond between Europe and Canada is strong and growing stronger. I look forward to working closely together, both bilaterally and within the G7. We'll defend our shared democratic values, promote multilateralism, and champion free and fair trade." While British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said he welcomes Carney's leadership on the international issues. Starmer wrote, "Congratulations to Mark Carney on your election victory. The UK and Canada are the closest of allies, partners, and friends. I welcome your leadership on the international issues, and I know we will continue to work closely on defense, security, trade, and investment." French President Macron said he looks forward to working with him elbow to elbow. Macron wrote on X, "France is glad to further strengthen the friendship which unites our two countries. I'm looking forward to working with you, elbow to elbow." Prime Minister Narendra Modi too congratulated Carney. The Indian leader wrote on X, India and Canada are bound by shared democratic values, a steadfast commitment to the rule of law, and vibrant people to people ties. I look forward to working with you to strengthen our partnership and unlock greater opportunities for our people. The Indian Canadian community remains a key voting group. However, Indian origin NDP leader Jagmeet Singh conceded defeat in his own district and said he planned to quit as party leader. But unlike Jagmeet, many other Indian origin candidates also shone in Canadian federal elections. Fortifying Canada's economy is expected to be Carney's immediate priority, including by advancing infrastructure projects to make Canada less dependent on the United States, which buys 90% of Canada's oil exports. Fuzail Ahmed reports for DD India.
Now, Russia says it's awaiting Ukraine's response to its proposed three-day ceasefire from the 8th to the 10th of May. However, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has rejected that offer, calling for a full 30-day truce and saying that the world shouldn't wait for a brief pause in a war lasting over 3 years. Meanwhile, fighting continues with both sides reporting drone strikes and casualties.
Russia unilaterally proposed a three-day ceasefire from May 8 to 10 and said on Tuesday that it is awaiting Ukraine's response to the offer, which includes direct talks. The truce announced by President Putin on Monday coincides with Russia's World War II Victory Day celebrations. In response to the proposal, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky criticized Russia's short-term ceasefire offer, calling instead for a longer 30-day truce.
The world believes that there is no reason to wait until May 8. The fire must be stopped not just for a few days, only to resume killing afterward. An immediate, complete and unconditional ceasefire for at least 30 days to ensure it is guaranteed and reliable is what can provide the foundation for real diplomacy.
Meanwhile, ahead of the unconfirmed three-day truce, Russia continued its offensive in Ukraine's northeastern Kharkiv region. Ukraine reported that Russia launched 100 drones overnight with 37 shot down by its air force. Russia claimed that a Ukraine drone strike killed 2 people and injured 3 others. Russia has long opposed Ukraine's bid to join NATO, a stance now echoed by the United States. On Tuesday, Russia's Security Council chairman and former president Dmitry Medvedev stated that countries joining NATO are part of a holistic bloc and will automatically become targets for Moscow. His comments were made in the context of Sweden and Finland, the most recent nations to join the alliance.
Let's be honest, there is not a single country that strengthens its security as a result of joining NATO. Poland, the Baltic states, and more recently Finland and Sweden are good examples of this. The status of non-aligned countries gave them certain advantages due to their geopolitical position and many other factors. And now they are in a hostile bloc towards us. This means that they automatically became a target for our armed forces.
Efforts to resolve the conflict through a multifaceted agreement involving Russia, Ukraine and the US along with European countries are ongoing. However, both sides have accused the other of violating the truce, including breaches of the proposed 30-day ceasefire on energy infrastructure. Bureau Report, DD India.
An unprecedented power outage left millions of people in Spain, Portugal and parts of France without electricity since mid-afternoon Monday. The massive power outages saw widespread disruption and a state of emergency remains in place in Spain. Power has almost fully been restored to more than 99% of mainland Spain and a probe is now going full steam ahead. Here's a report.
Lights flickered back to life in Spain and Portugal on Tuesday after a massive blackout hit the area, stranding passengers in trains and hundreds of elevators, while millions saw phone and internet coverage die. Overnight into Tuesday, about 90% of power was restored to Spain's national grid and lights have come back on into the Portuguese capital of Lisbon. Residents cheered as power returned in Madrid after the outage, but no firm cause for the shutdown has yet emerged. Earlier, a sweeping power outage left millions of people in Spain, Portugal, and parts of France without electricity on Monday, leading to chaotic scenes and widespread disruption. Houses, offices, trains, traffic lights, and even the Madrid Open Tennis tournament were all hit. A day of widespread disruption paralyzed public transport, caused large traffic jams, and delayed airline flights as utility operators scrambled to restore the grid. Portuguese Prime Minister Montenegro said the source of the outage was probably in Spain. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said all the potential causes were being analyzed.
En lo que respecta a las causas,
what has caused this sudden disappearance of supply? This is something that specialists have not yet been able to determine, but they will. And the relevant state institutions and all private operators are working together to understand what has happened. All potential causes are being analyzed. I insist again, without ruling any hypothesis, any possibility.
y las instituciones del Estado.
Widespread outages are unusual in Europe. The latest incident is likely to surpass Europe's largest blackout to date, when over 50 million people in Italy and Switzerland were left without electricity for up to 12 hours in 2003. Anamika Pandey reporting for DD India.
Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba met with Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. on Tuesday, aiming to deepen security and economic cooperation between the two of Washington's closest allies in Asia. During the talks, Ishiba addressed the global ripple effects of the ongoing US-China trade dispute and pledged to consider the concerns of Japanese businesses operating in the Philippines. The two leaders also discussed expanding defense ties under Japan's official security assistance program, of which the Philippines is a key early recipient. In a move to boost bilateral security cooperation, Ishiba revealed that discussions have begun on a potentially information security arrangement that would allow for the exchange of confidential intelligence. Vietnam will release over 8,000 prisoners, including 25 foreigners from 9 countries, ahead of the 50th anniversary of the fall of Saigon. The amnesty announced by the government is part of a tradition before significant events. Political prisoners and those convicted of serious crimes like terrorism or attempting to overthrow the government are excluded. This release, set to begin Thursday, reflects the government's generosity and humane tradition, is what the government says. As of January, over 197,000 people were in Vietnamese prisons, including more than 160 political prisoners. Meanwhile, Vietnam continues to target social media critics in its crackdown on dissent. And still to come on DD India NewsHour, we'll be speaking with our expert guest about who should be credited for the Liberals' remarkable comeback in the Canadian elections, Mark Carney or Donald Trump. Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Gautam Roy. Let's now take you back to one of our top stories. The remarkable comeback of the Liberals in the Canadian elections, who till just about 3 months ago had been presumed to be sure-shot losers after the then Premier Justin Trudeau threw in the towel. What happened in the interim that now they're on top again as the biggest party in the Canadian Parliament that will shape up after the election, and we're almost there as far as a majority is concerned. We have Ajay Bisaria with us, former Indian High Commissioner to Canada. Good evening to you, Mr. Bisaria. Now, if I were to take you about 3 months back to when Justin Trudeau quit, would you have ever seen this coming?
Absolutely. I think it's one of the most miraculous political recovery stories you'll hear in recent times. Because as you said just a few months ago, in November, the Liberals were down 25 points, trailing the Conservatives, who seemed to be on a roll. There was Pierre Poilievre looking really, really strong as the next Prime Minister of Canada. The Liberals, with 10 years of anti-incumbency, looked like they were about to lose. There was a difference of 25 points between the two parties in terms of the exit polls. And now the situation has been completely reversed. As of now, the Liberals are leading with about 168 seats projected. In a majority mark should be 172. The Conservatives have also gained, but what has happened is that the two other parties, which is the Bloc Québécois and particularly the NDP, have lost a lot of ground. And I think that is the essential story. It is Mark Carney who has two people to thank, really, for getting there. One is Justin Trudeau, because anything after Trudeau for the Canadian people was an improvement. He was hugely unpopular at the end of his tenure. And the other, of course, is Donald Trump, because the Trump challenge united Canada. It spooked Canada. It wanted them to look for a savior from the Donald Trump existential challenge. He was not just putting tariffs on Canada, he was also challenging their existence by repeatedly threatening to make them the 51st state. So I think this was an existential challenge, and Canada wanted a hero who could save them, and that hero came to them in the shape of Mark Carney, who was an accomplished economist and apparently the person who could navigate this storm for Canada.
Yes, we're still to hear from Donald Trump what he makes of this result in Canada in terms of its elections. But do you think that Donald Trump will now be looking at Canada with a new set of eyes, or he will continue to say, Governor Carney, or come aboard 51st state, and we will not subsidize Canada anymore?
Well, I don't think he will give up on the 51st state rhetoric. He might dilute it a bit, but at this point of time, he might want to do business. This is the Trump style. In his 100 days in power, we've seen this script play out in different domains, whether it is with China, whether it's with in the Ukraine war, whether it is in the Gaza conflict, talking of Gaza as the Riviera and making an opening bid. For Trump, the art of the deal is to make a shocking initial offer, and so that all subsequent offers start looking more attractive. So he is perhaps likely to tone down the rhetoric a bit, try to do business with the new Canadian leader. He will hope to get what he wants and get more on the negotiation table. It is essentially with Canada an issue of renegotiating the CUSMA or the NAFTA, the free trade agreement for North America. I think Trump will make a few opening gambits, want to get Carney on the table, and want to show to his base and his people that he's got a better deal than his predecessor did.
Yes, he will be with his base a little later in the day in Michigan, although he's been celebrating his 100 days of his second presidency, non-consecutive second presidency, for about a week now. And we'll get to hear on whether he's doubling down on his overall approach to the world, or he will soften. Do you think there might be an opportunity there for Trump to consider all the things that are emerging after 100 days? His popularity has nosedived. He's among the most unpopular presidents ever in the US after completing 100 days.
I think Trump will double down. He will not acknowledge that there is a loss in popularity. He might spin it as being a necessary pain in the short term for many long-term benefits. And directionally, what he has done is something that is unexceptionable in the sense of wanting to reorder the trade order, reorder the economic order, wanting to talk about securing America's borders, stopping wars, reducing the size of government. Directionally, it was fine, but the revolution he got in terms of dramatic, disruptive changes
Yes.
made the method very questionable.
What do you make of his tone in the Atlantic interview? It was triumphant?
Yes. So I think Trump will continue to be triumphant. I think he's thick-skinned. The loss in approval ratings is not going to affect him. It's been the most disruptive 100 days of any presidency, and I think Trump will continue to be disruptive because he probably perceives he has a couple of years of disruption before he's checked.
Okay, let's come back to Canada. Why do you think Pierre Poilievre suffered such a fate that he's not only lost the election for his party, but also his own seat?
I think there was some success in the liberal portrayal of Pierre Poilievre as a mini Trump. And Canada, which was really spooked by Trump and very irritated by his arrogance and aggression, did not want a leader who resembled Trump in any way, even if he was defending Canada. So I think Mark Carney appeared as the perfect foil and the perfect anti-Trump for Canada to place its trust in. And while the Conservatives have not done too badly, in the sense they've done better than they did before in the previous election, the Liberals, I think, because of the Trump factor, did even better. So,
But the Liberals are not home free yet. They may need support from independents or smaller parties like Jagmeet Singh's NDF, which has otherwise been decimated, but has a chance of getting a new lease of life, so to speak, which again perhaps might not be looked at very positively by a lot of people here in India.
Well, Jagmeet Singh is out, he's resigned and he is out. So he had shaped the NDP with his agenda. So even if the NDP with 7 members becomes a junior partner of in the ruling coalition, it won't be the same NDP, it won't have the same sort of agenda. It's also been stripped of its status as a national party because it has only 7 seats. The threshold is 12. So I think the Liberals will probably get support from both the Bloc Québécois, which has in fact about 26 seats, and the NDP. They might both give outside support. But it's a near majority. It's 168 seats, just 4 seats short. So they will be in a reasonably comfortable position. But of course, they don't have an absolute majority.
And what do you make of Prime Minister Modi's statement in the context of the fact that under Justin Trudeau, the relationship between India and Canada had sunk to depths unknown earlier? And do you think that this outcome of the election in Canada presents a fresh opportunity for both Mark Carney and Prime Minister Modi to take ties in better directions, for better tidings in a very challenging environment created to a large extent by the Canadian neighbor in the White House?
Absolutely. I think PM Modi's first tweet, which came within minutes of the acceptance speech by Mark Carney, is a forward-looking message. I think it's a message that we can both together strengthen this partnership. We can press the reset button. And I think if you see all of India's statements over the last 18 months where Trudeau was appeared keen on detonating the relationship, the Indian statements were about Trudeau and Trudeau's administration and not about Canada. So India was seeing this as a Trudeau problem. And the moment Trudeau left, it became a natural inflection point. And the early signs are that even Mark Carney has said positive things. And given the problems that the Canadians have with the US, their distrust of Canada and of China, and also the problems they could potentially have, with a volatile Europe, I think India becomes a somewhat natural partner for which Canada will stabilize the relationship and soon normalize it a few months later.
Yes, certainly. Fingers crossed in a very hopeful and positive manner. Thank you so much for joining us, Ajay Basaria, former Indian High Commissioner to Canada, as well for that matter, Pakistan too. We'll talk about Pakistan perhaps on another day very soon. Thank you for joining us. And still to come on DD India NewsHour. Indian filmmaker Payal Kapadia joins Chair Judith Pinochet and others on the 78th Cannes Film Festival jury that will happen in May. And Indian beat South Africa by 15 runs to register a second successive win in the Women's ODI Tri-Series. Also, the English Premier League confirms opening of an office in India.
नमस्कार। आज भी लोग मुझसे पूछते हैं कि सिनेमा का असली मकसद क्या है। मैं कहता हूं कि सिनेमा सिर्फ एक कहानी नहीं, एक एहसास है जो दिल तक जाए, जो यादों में रहे, ये दुनिया को जोड़ दे। वर्ल्ड ऑडियो विजुअल एंड एंटरटेनमेंट समिट वेव्स इज द नेक्स्ट चैप्टर ऑफ दैट जर्नी, जहां सिर्फ एंटरटेनमेंट ही नहीं, एक नया युग लिखा जाएगा। तो क्या आप इस कहानी का हिस्सा बनने के लिए तैयार हैं?
Connecting creators, connecting countries. Waves 2025.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, in a swift reversal, online retail giant Amazon has said it will not show consumers how much of their purchase price is due to tariffs imposed under Donald Trump. This comes after sharp criticism from White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, who slammed the move as politically charged. Amazon's clarification puts an end to speculation about potential pricing transparency on tariff-inflated goods. India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal, who's in London on a two-day visit, addressed the India-UK Business Roundtable, bringing together prominent business leaders and CEOs from both the countries. The minister highlighted opportunities to strengthen economic ties, drive innovation-led growth and expand investment avenues between India and the UK. American actors Halle Berry and Jeremy Strong and Indian filmmaker Payal Kapadia will join jury chair Judith Pinochet and others on the panel of the 78th Cannes Film Festival jury in May. The jury list includes Italian actor Alba Rohrwacher, French-Moroccan writer Leila Slimani, Congolese director, documentarist and producer Dido Hamadi, Korean director and screenwriter Hong Sang-soo, and Mexican director, screenwriter and producer Carlos Regadas as the other 5 jury members, who will have the honor of awarding the Palme d'Or to one of the 21 films in competition. The winners will be announced on the 24th of May at the closing ceremony. Kapadia's film All We Imagine as Light won the coveted Grand Prix at Cannes last year. It revolves around the friendship and love lives of 3 immigrant women who live and work in Mumbai, the congested metropolis of more than 12 million people. This year's 78th Cannes Film Festival will run from the 13th of May till, as I mentioned, the 24th. You're watching DD India NewsHour, and now we'll get you some sporting updates as well. An Indian women's cricket team has beaten South Africa by 15 runs to notch up their second successive win in the ODI Tri-Series on Tuesday. Batting first, breakout star Pratika Rawal's 78-run knock and contributions from skipper Harmanpreet Kaur and Jemima Rodriguez took India to a healthy 276 for 6 in 50 overs. In reply, opener Tasneem Brits scored a fine 100, but South Africa managed only 261 in 49.2 overs, with veteran off-spinner Sneh Rana grabbing a maiden 5-wicket haul. India had beaten host Sri Lanka by 9 wickets in the opening game on Sunday. And the cricketing world was left awestruck by a 14-year-old wonder kid in the IPL. Vaibhav Suryavanshi, who blitzed through a 35-ball run ton against Gujarat Titans, shattering many records. From the great Sachin Tendulkar to Yuvraj Singh, everyone has hailed the teenager for his jaw-dropping innings. Now, all-rounder Nat Skipper Brunt has succeeded Heather Knight as the captain of the English women's cricket team. Skipper Brunt made her international debut in 2023 and has been vice-captain for the last 3 years. She is ranked number 3 in the ICC World Batting Rankings in one-day international cricket. Skipper Brunt has represented England in 259 matches across all formats, scored 11 centuries and taken 181 wickets. Former skipper Knight left the role last month after England suffered a humiliating whitewash by Australia in the Ashes series. Now, the English Premier League has announced the opening of an office in India. The new office will aim to engage local fans and partners and promote football in India. The Premier League has a long history of working in India. The league has been running its Premier Skills program in partnership with the British Council to support the development of community football workforce since 2007. Over the past 18 years, the program has been delivered in more than 18 Indian states, supporting thousands of coaches, referees and young athletes. Arsenal and Paris Saint-Germain will clash on Tuesday night in the first leg of their Champions League semi-final. The Gunners booked their place in the final 4 of the tournament by thoroughly outplaying defending champions Real Madrid to win their quarter-final series 5-1 on aggregate. PSG's road to the Champions League semi-final stage has been equally impressive. The German club caused one of the biggest upsets of the tournament, defeating Liverpool on penalties in the round of 16 after the teams finished their 2-leg series tied at 1-1. Both Arsenal and PSG are bidding to win Europe's elite club competition for the first time. The International Tennis Integrity Agency has banned Australia's 2-time Grand Slam doubles champion Max Purcell for 18 months for breaching the anti-doping rules. The 27-year-old has admitted receiving IV infusions of over 500 ml twice in late 2023. The limit under the World Anti-Doping Code is 100 ml in a 12-hour period. Purcell's full cooperation during the investigation had allowed for a 25% reduction in sanction. Purcell's suspension will end on the 11th of June 2026 after taking into account the time already served. He is prohibited from playing in, coaching at or attending any tennis events sanctioned by the members of the ITIA until that time. And play resumed at the Madrid Open on Tuesday after power outage disrupted the event's schedule on Monday. Fans were in for a treat with more than 30 matches due to be played across both the men's and women's tournaments. Power started returning to parts of the Iberian Peninsula late on Monday after a huge outage brought most of Spain and Portugal to a standstill. And that's it for the moment in this edition of DD India NewsHour. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest as far as any news is concerned on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. You can scan the QR code, download the app. We'll be back with more news at the place here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India NewsHour.